Fresno, California. Am I correct, Shannon? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, she is an award winning artist, also a television producer and host. And she is an author of children's book called Monkey Made of Sakis. She's also a talented songwriter and a singer, and she's a member of the Nashville Songwriters Association. Her new project as of this year is an online school called Painterly, where she coaches individual artists and helps them develop their own doors of perception and creative interest. I'm just going to ask everyone as they come in to mute themselves. Thank you. She also has a YouTube channel where she has incredible 2-minute tips. I've been in there and I've enjoyed them tremendously, and a blog. And today, Shannon is going to share some of her secrets about using a palette knife in painting and painting over it. So, taking an already established painting, and if you're not totally happy with it, using a palette knife and the technique. So please welcome Shannon Grissom.
Hi guys, hello everyone. I just want to say hi to some people I haven't seen in a long time. It's gonna make me cry. Hi Carrie, hi Maureen. It's just good to see you guys. I grew up in the Bay Area, so and spent a lot of time in Hollister. I lived there for 14 years, so I have some. It's good to see you guys there. All right, so today what we're going to talk about is two things. I don't know if this happens to you, but it happens to me. I either, I'm prolific. I paint every day. Sometimes I fall out of love with a painting. Like I had this great idea and I really wanted to do it. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm so over that. And I don't feel like finishing it. Or I look at it and the composition is really bad. And I'm like, what was I thinking? I just, so for whatever reason, I used to just throw them out because I thought, oh, they'd have negative energy and all this BS. And so I just throw them out. But I'm a lot more frugal these days. So I paint over it. And what I found with the palette knife is you can paint over it and not have ghosts. So you know how when you paint over a traditional painting, you might have texture showing through and so it screws up, pentimento, it screws up the next layer. But with a palette knife, you can just go to town. No, and you can leave some bits of what's underneath showing, and you can just create something fun. So the other thing about painting over it is when you've already decided you're done with this piece, right? There is nothing left to lose. I mean, you can just experiment and do whatever because you know what? It's already toast. So I'm going to switch over. I encourage if you have questions to go ahead and put them in the chat, and Bobby or Desiree will, make sure that I know to look at the chat and check out the answers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the camera view so that you're closer to the work and you can see that in the palette. And then I'll switch back when we start talking again. So here we go. All right. Let's see. All right, so is that view better? Okay, I'm hearing that. Okay, so, and the weird thing is that because it's smaller, I'm like, okay, this is, I'm not blonde anymore, I'm white, but this is a blonde thing. I'm like, the picture's really small, so like it didn't make any difference, but it did. Okay, so here is a demo that I did. I started this is a palette knife piece, and I started this demo, it was for another art group, and I just didn't feel like finishing her, but she has lovely energy. And I thought how cool she could be this presence behind a landscape. So that's what I'm going to do with her. And I'm going to hold it up really close so you can kind of see some of the texture in there. See, I mean, it's thick, it's messy, it's not fussy at all. And I have to say, I got to back up a little bit. When I first started painting, everything was completely tight. I did not let my personality out. I did everything. I tried so hard to make it look like something that you could not see any brush strokes. In fact, one of my teachers called me the queen of over blending. But now I let it all hang out. So that's what we're gonna do today. So I don't normally have my palette like this, but I thought it'd be easier for you to see. So that's why it's up at this angle. And I'm just gonna give it a shot. We're gonna use basically two knives today, just a regular mixing knife, flat palette knife. And oh, and if you go to my website, there's a free guide to palette knives. You can check that out. And then a pointed knife. So just between the two, we could probably get it all done with just this one knife. The other thing that I'm normally, over the years, I used to hold the reference photo or the tissue in my hand, and that gave me carpal tunnel over years. So that's not a good thing to do. So I have learned that I'm now going to wipe it on this surface here. So what am I going to do? I'm taking a look at this Bass Lake scene. I'm going to do a modified version of this. I don't like the composition here. I'm going to probably move these trees over and have the center of interest be in here. So I'll take some purple, only because I just love it. And that's going to be how I draw. So I think, let's see. I think I want her lips on the horizon. So is that too high? Yeah, it's a little too high. That'll be some of the trees. Let's just try that. Okay. This is going to be a modified wedge composition. All right, water will go down here. And maybe that could go a little higher. So maybe that will be in, I didn't want to cover that up. A little bit of, can you tell how this is not fussy at all? And let's see, the sky will be about right. She'll be in the trees in the background. Okay, so that's as technical as I'm getting, right? I'm just doing some basic shapes for where we want to go. I'm going to start blocking in the sky, and I'm doing what I told you I wasn't going to do. I'm holding on to this thing, so I'm going to put that down. I use bathroom tissue to wipe my knife typically rather than paper towel because it's a cleaner wipe. Okay, so
Shannon?
yeah.
We have just one quick question. Is there any way we can adjust the camera so that they see the painting more head on?
So would you rather see that and more the palette? I'll tell you what, I'll just move it around. You tell me what you like. How's that? Like, you want it closer?
I think more head on to the actual, the question is there a way to see
straight
more head on?
Let me try, okay, so my concern about doing that is when I start painting, am I going to be in the way?
Yeah, you are. I think the other view is better.
So that's why I had it set up that way.
Yeah.
I was concerned about not blocking the shot. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for trying. I think the other way is better.
Oh, here's some of my tight sock monkey work. So that's how I was painting. Okay. Let's try to move it over just slightly. Yeah. It's a little bit better. Okay. All right, so let's block in the sky. And I'm going to take some phthalo turquoise. I only have just a little bit on my knife because this takes over. It totally takes over. See how just a little bit with white? And I probably didn't get enough paint, but that's okay. Let's see. Can you see that texture in there? I'm going to just grab, okay. One thing about, I do get conscious of wasting paint and unnecessarily. I'm not stingy with it, but if I can wipe it here and use it later as opposed to wiping it on my towel, I'll do that. So I'm going to move this over. There, that's better. So that's going to be the lower part of the sky. And I'm going to leave some of her color showing through. I have this rigged on a 2x4 so that you can see the bottom of the painting. The problem with that is it slips. It sometimes scares me, and God knows what kind of words I'll say if it does scare me when I'm totally in the moment. All right, we're gonna need some more of this. Just bring this down, add a little bit more of this. Maybe a little bit more of the phthalo turquoise at the top. There we go. So it's kind of got a neutral going on just because of what's there. And you can see I am not being fussy, scraping. I'm also conscious of, we have an hour, right? Is that what we got? So I'm conscious of, since I'm usually a slower painter, of just really kicking it up a notch. Okay. I will move this over. All right, I'm going to take some, you'll see that I do a lot of mixing on the palette. I'm going to take some straight white. She's giving me the look. Okay, that's as messy as it gets. I've already got my fingers in the purple down below. Okay, so that's a good start to the sky. Let's see. I want it to be more of a wedge, so I'm going to add. I got some purple in there. It's like, whatever, that's okay. It's all good. Her eyebrow's really poking out. There. All right, so we got that going on. Now I want to add, I'm checking, are you, okay. What is the paper you wiped your palette knife off initially? This is really cheap bathroom tissue. I screwed up and ordered some from Sam's. Oh, that's just a paper towel over here. Are you very concerned about the paint adhering to the board? You know, it totally, no. Especially with, I always paint oil over oil or oil over acrylic. You don't want to put acrylic over oil. That's not going to work, and it would crack over time. I tried an experiment this morning where I painted straight on one of these without priming it. And what happened is, I've never done that before. Normally I put some gesso on it. What happened was, it was really cool. It absorbed the paint. And so I use like it's probably an expensive way to do it. I use a lot of paint on there. But the other thing is, because it absorbed the paint, you were able to really work it because the layer was almost dry. And with oils, normally you kind of, it's a little trickier, and it was really cool. Would I do that all the time? No. But I made the best of it. Okay, so now I'm going to make some background hills. You'll notice my palette is, whether it's a landscape or a portrait, I'm pretty much going to use the same palette. I tend to mix my color rather than, I'm more concerned about color than I am value. And so I'm going to grab a little yellow ochre, now I'm trying to decide, yeah, I'll stick to this phthalo turquoise. I want to keep that consistent. And then I'll gray it down with this complement. So, and I start off really nice and tidy and mix and clean everything between mixes. And then that all goes to, you know what, later. So pretty soon I'll have everything everywhere. All right, so I'm gonna add a little bit of cad red light, warm that up a little. You wouldn't think you'd want it warm in the distance, but I do. And then let's see, a little purple. There we go. Okay, so these are distant hills. These are all those pines. We go plein air painting, and Yosemite Western artists, we go to the higher elevations in the summer when it's hot. So this was a June day several years ago. I don't live up there anymore. And it was awesome. Just a really cool, Sandy was there that day. Okay, so this is a wedge composition. We're going to be going back and forth, back and forth. All right, so I've got kind of a start there, and then I will add a little warmth to this. So I'm going to add some Cad Yellow Deep. Cad Yellow Deep, and we got 3 pigments on this palette that are kind of like Rodney Dangerfield. They take over everything. So Cad Yellow Deep, Indian Yellow, and Phthalo Turquoise. So I use them sparingly. Okay, so this is a little warmer. I want it to come closer. I'm putting it on not too thick. You'll see I'll scrape a little bit of it off later. And we'll have this be a little higher over here. Okay. And I think I'll leave some of that purple showing just for now. All right, so we want to ground this a little bit. So I'll add a little purple, a little red to the base. See, that's not clean anymore. Okay. I like Permalba white. I use mostly Daniel Smith paint with a little bit of Gamblin and a little bit of Utrecht, but mostly Daniel Smith, except for my white, which I really like the Permalba because it's buttery. All right. And I was going to wipe on this, but I'm going to old habits and I'm using my toilet tissue here. Okay, because I forget. All right, so let's put a little shoreline in here. We'll just grab some straight white, a little bit of yellow ochre. All right. I like the broken lines. They definitely add some interest. I don't want all these to be the same size, so I'll probably have to do some adjusting there. But right now, instead of picking it apart, I want to cover the whole canvas and then see where it needs to go. And I'm doing just we're going to let the painting tell us where to go with this. All right, so I think I want to make this whole thing water. So I'm going to scrape off a little bit of just a little bit of that purple. There. All right, so I'm going to take some straight ultramarine blue and white. And that's going to be right there. Too bad I'm covering up her lips there. I was hoping to use that somewhere else, but we'll see where things land. Okay, so this is over the top blue. Just because I'm add a little bit of phthalo to it, tied in with the sky. When it's this textured, it's a little harder to, it's just not as smooth. So it's good in some respects, but it also makes it a little harder to apply the paint. All right, so I'm going to add to that gradation. At the horizon here, it's usually darker and it's going to get lighter as it gets closer. I'm going to add some warmth to that, grab some of that was there, grab some straight white. I'm going to overdo it on the white because I can always add a little dark later. I'm fighting this. It's funny. I think the other one I worked on today was thicker. All right. I'm just going to move this whole thing down so I can contaminate it. Okay, so as I'm looking at this, I can see there are some challenges already. Stepping on my reference photo. These are, I make things tidy, and these are already even, you know, so I'm going to have to break that up. But I have learned over the years, you just keep going and edit after you get your first statement done. So I'm going to just leave it alone. Because if I edit too soon, sometimes I fix things that are not broken. It's all about relationships. Okay. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit. I'm not putting the picnic table in there. I don't want anything that I'm going to have to be careful with. It'd just not be fun. That's cool. I got paint everywhere. It just happens. I'm going to grab a little bit of this whatever neutral mix I had up here and just add it so for some shadowy stuff. And you know, actually some of the stuff that's going on here already is going to be, I might key it into that. So let's throw in some red. Warm that up. Okay, so we've now got a pretty good glorious mess. Let's see. I think I want to, so that these shapes are not the same size, I'm going to make the sky bigger. So how do I do that? I'm going to scrape some of this off. Throw some down there. There. I'm going to add some straight white over the top. Now it's a little stormier of a day. There. Let's see. Instead of wiping that on my knife, I'll just throw some down here randomly. But, you know, I have just been over the years so fussy and so careful. And so I'm really doing what I can to stop that. Okay, I like that better. So we have a basic thing there. Let's see if we need to get these trees going in here. So let's just push this up. There, I'll put some of that down here. Just smash it. Any questions? No. Okay, so that's a heck of a good start as far as just getting paint down on the canvas and not being too concerned about it. So I would have to say I did, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 practice ones of these. And the biggest challenge I had with this was the composition. So if you, I'm going to switch over for a second to the other one. Okay. So I was conscious of rhythm here. So yeah, the fact that you have just poked a hole in it. The fact that I have three, that's not so bad. In fact, this little curve here really adds to it, but I didn't like the rhythm here. It was just not a good syncopation. So I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna delete this tree, move these trees over, and then have something coming off the side here. So the biggest problem I would say I grew up doing still lifes and portraits, and trees and landscapes are completely foreign to me. In fact, the publisher of Art Calendar, if any of you guys can ever remember that, told me I should stick to um, portraits and not ever do landscapes. And so I really had this thing about trees, how I couldn't, I just sucked, right? I can't paint trees, I can't do this. But I liked them. And so when I would do landscapes like this, I wouldn't put any trees in. So the cool thing about the knife is, because I would get this far and then I'd put something in and it's like, oh my God, I wrecked the whole thing. But you know what? Yeah, I can't wreck it. You just keep going. So what I like about the knife is you can draw with this point. So I'm just going to etch in where I think I want the things to go and just finesse it till it gets in the right place. So it's very forgiving and I like that. Okay. All right. So what am I going to do? Let's see, do I want one tree? And okay, that's the other thing. They always said to start in the middle of a tree and move out because of the branches, and that's how it would naturally go. But my brain can't draw that way. So I'm going to start the top because I want something to be about right here. That's pretty good. There. And it's not perfect, but it's perfect. And then instead of wiping my knife on that, I'll put it on the palette. And let's see, what else do we want? Might be a little too far. So you can just erase. And they're a little too much the same kind of thing, so I'll adjust that. So we've got two trees going on there. Maybe they don't need to be that high. Maybe I'll just chop them off there. And then what do I want to do here? I want something coming off there. And maybe something coming off here. And then I just start making things a little bit bigger. All right, so that gives me a fairly decent outline of where they want to go. All right, so what am I doing for the dark side of the trunk? The light's coming from this direction. I'm actually going to put a little red over there. So you notice I'm not using any earth tones, just a little permanent rose. And I'm just using the side of the knife. And obviously I'm not worried about where it's going. And as it gets to the end of the knife, it runs out of paint, so that works out. If you start at the bottom. I don't always remember. Okay, so there's that, and then let's see, this one needs to be a little closer. I'll get a little more paint. And then I'm going to grab some purple. Still, we're working on the dark side of the trunk. Put it on the dark side over here. Maybe make that a bold. It's good that it kind of skips so it's not boring. There. That's a decent start on the dark side. Let's see, what do we want to do over here? This is kind of coming off here. Problem is I start getting painting and I forget, and I probably am in the way. Sorry. I get into it and I'm like, oh my God, they can't see. Okay. When I had the TV show, there were 3 different cameras at different angles, and they'd switch back and forth so they could catch everything. I'm in here by myself. Okay. Let's bow that out a little bit. I like that. Let's see. I want it to be too fussy. Yeah, that's a decent start. Okay, that's probably a little too even, but I'll adjust that. I'm going to add some white, and I'm adding more white than I would normally do because it'll blend, and I don't want to lose it. So I'm picking it up. See how it's on the side of the knife, and this is going to be the light side of the tree. And it's, oops. It's just going to be bigger there, that's all. You can always scrape things off. There. And I have to decide what I'm going to do there, if I'm going to make it split off or not. Let's put a little over on this side. Okay, so now I'm going to step back, see where we're at. It's starting to wake up. Now I want to add a little bit of greenery. So I'm going to take some, well, before I do that, I want to add a little bit of the light here in the shore. Oops, I ended up adding dark. So what you do then is you pretend like you meant to do that. And you go to plan B. So I'm going to, you can either scrape it off or just add to it. So I think I'm just going to add to it. A little bit of this blue, a little bit of purple. Add a little dark there. There. Okay. Let me, how are we doing on time? 4:37, we're okay. Now this is totally too much of a green, but I'm too much anyway. So that's probably what's going to happen. Actually, it will be toned down because of all the wet paint here. So let's see, let's just throw a little stuff out here. And I want some more here. Just break that up. And let's see, what else are these trees doing? Add a little weight to it, a little dark down below. I mean, really not getting fussy at all, and pushing some of the problem that I have is I do tend to make things tidy and even, so I gotta stop that. And I'm thinking I need to adjust that tree. It's just a little too perfect. So I'm going to turn this around so that I can get back and look at it. Okay. one of the things that I do, normally what I do in the morning, I get up about 3 in the, when I had a day job, I would paint before work every day. So I'd get up about 3 and start painting. And I still do that, even though I don't have a day job. And so normally I'd get to this point, have a cup of coffee, sit there and think about it, and, you know, and move. One of the cool things about doing something this fast is making split decisions and not second guessing yourself. So I'm gonna, you know, look at some of these other areas and then go back to that. So my basic rule is, you know, some people paint left to right, back to front in a very systematic way. And what I do is I do what I know I can do, and I sneak up on what scares me. So now what I'm going to do is, let me see if where am I? All right, so let's add some rocks. Wish I had more of that mix. That was awesome. Okay. Can't have that white back there. All right. Ooh, okay, so all of a sudden I want some red right there where her lips were on the horizon, even though it is not in the reference photo. So that's pushing you up here. The other thing too, if there are areas of painting that you like, and you know, so you're directing people toward what you want to see. So if there's an area that you particularly like, push them there, and create a diversion from the areas you're not as happy with. Okay. Now I'm going to go back in and add the darks to the trees. So it's a bunch of reinstating, putting it in and reinstating. There we go. I wanted that a little warmer. These were too much the same size, so I'm just going to make it fatter. And then just start making sure that I am grounding everything. Like I see a pattern of light here. Oh, wait there. Just skip it over the top. Just put it down and stop. And I think the hardest thing for me is putting it down and leaving it. So there's maybe a little light next to that. And we're just kind of dancing with each other. I'm gonna just not add any light over, maybe a little light there, but that's not a lot. Then I really need to reinstate the lights on the trees. How much time do I have? 15 minutes, okay.
Shannon?
Yeah.
Carrie is really interested in you elaborating a little bit more on the composition, asking, are you really considering the composition more than anything?
Yeah, because you know what? As much as I really want color to be my main focus, if the composition is right, no amount of pretty is going to fix your painting. And so, and the biggest challenges I had were with the composition. So yes, that is, if I had to pick things that are my favorite things to focus on, no, it's not. But it is, I really feel like it's the most important. Otherwise, you're fighting yourself trying to get really the biggest problems I have are not necessarily with color or with value or anything like that. You know, you get back from it and you can look at it, but I think the biggest things I struggle with are composition. I I have this handy at all times, Payne's, Edgar Payne composition for outdoor painting. It's an invaluable reference tool. And when and I make stuff up a lot out of my head. So sometimes I'll go to Payne's and say, okay, what would he do with this type of thing? So, you know, like with this particular one, this is too even. So I'm gonna have to do something. I think I like this shape here. I'm gonna make this tree a lot fatter because the weight over here, I'm concerned about rhythm and weight. So if I make this fatter, that will make it not such an even composition. And let's see, fatter and darker. Did that answer your question, Carrie? Okay, yeah, that makes work as a whole. What would Payne do? Yes. Okay, let's add some.
Also, Shannon, you have
Yeah.
till about 5, you have till about 5:10, so please don't rush.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna add some red in the middle here. The other thing I like to do is, you know, I put everything vertically, but it really helps to add form to take your knife and move it over. That was a little too much, but Sandy's heard me say this before. I had this teacher that said, you're the type that thinks if a little bit is good, a lot is better. So, and I have to guard against that. So I'm moving a little there. And this could be a little bigger. There, because they were just too even. There, I'll put that over. And what do I need to address the bottom? So let's add some grass or something to help ground it. And also bring some of this color back in here. There we go. All right, so there was a rock here, but I'm just going to throw some grass in here. You can pounce on it. Let's see, this would like some a little suggestion of some grass. And same thing over here. Maybe break that up. You know, don't be afraid to scribble. And, you know, I might like what's going on here. This needs to be grounded. I just saw that. I do get painting blindness, and so I do have to get back. And that's the other thing about falling in love too early with a particular passage. And so that's, you know, there's all these things you have to guard against, or I have to guard against my own personality there. Okay, that's going on, a little dark there. Let's add some dark at the bottom here with a little more red. I'm just going to pounce on it, maybe show you a few different techniques. So you got some broken color in there. I just killed this one really cool thing I had going. It just happens. Okay. So let's back up a minute. I'm going to step back. I'm looking at the Zoom to kind of get a better perspective on what I can do. Okay, so this band here is just too white and too, so I'm going to scrape some of that off. And I don't remember what was under there. I'm checking to see if there's anything really cool under here that I could use. Nope. I'm breaking that up. I overdid it, but that'll be good for the shadows. So let's just move some of that up too. Can't have this light taking you off the canvas over here. Just scrape it off. That's the other thing. If you're if you're starting a painting like this and you think you're going to go back into it, but you're worried about some of the chunks, then I would scrape the whole thing off at the end of the session. But I'm not that careful anymore because I think the chunks just add to it. So I'm going to tone this down just a little and reinstate the lights. A little more red, a little more orange. Okay. And then add some light over the top. So I'm out of already. I have this paint everywhere. All right. So when it's this wet, you have to put it down and leave it. So I'm going to pounce and stop, pounce and stop, pounce and stop. I'm not wiping my knife because then it's not all the same color. Okay. And then I need to ground this little bit here. Take some of this permanent green and phthalo turquoise and purple because it needs to be darker right here. I'm pushing that up again. And you know what? I really think there needs to be a little more light back there. So I'm going to add some of this sky color in. Just break it up. Add some interest. And I'm going to step back a little bit. Okay, so that's adding some interest there. I'm going to take some straight blue, ultramarine, right against that yellow. When I do this, it gets flicked on the ceiling. Okay. Not all the way across. And then do the same thing down below. So I want there to be, oops, there was a little green in there. Didn't mean to do that, but whatever. It's there. It's there now. Blend it a little. Okay. Let's see what I can do to kind of clean this up in a few minutes. Well, we got some islands of light. So let's add some connections. Where else could it be light? Right in here. All right, that's better. I overdid because that's how I roll. But it's starting to take shape. This part's bugging me. I'll just scrape it off. Sometimes if I really want to blend something and I just don't want to clean brushes or something, I'll use a Q-tip to help do that. All right, let's see. I need to get back from it, so that's helping me. I'm looking at the Zoom thing. We need some orange. Okay. It might be just a little too wet. Just a lot too wet. All right, so let's see what I can do to rectify that. Orange there. I think it needs to be grounded down here. So let's just, okay, so let's say you get this far into it, you got nothing left to lose, you're almost there, right? So let's just turn it sideways, forget the reference photo. Oh, here's another tool I have. Got this red plastic thing, and I use it when I'm outdoor painting because what it does is it boils everything down to values. See how it tells you how your values are doing? So it's really handy to use when you're outdoor painting. All right, so I'm turning it on its side. I want some red down below. I think there's going to need to be a rock here or something. That. And it can't just be an island of this red, so I have to add it a little bit in places. Throw some yellow ochre over the top, tone it down just a little bit. Okay, and maybe just a little unity here. All right, so it's starting to take shape. Let's see what I can do. I really need to, these trees just need some more dark on that side. I'm gonna turn them sideways. I'm doing it in little chunks rather than a straight line so that the light would be broken up a bit. And I think these kind of need to meet down here. Just throw a blob of dark there. Okay, so just that bit of dark helped put the trees in the right place. And then what I would do is just add a little bit of a little bit more dark just to add the some interest to the leaves. And then what you could do is etch in some branches. You know how they kind of go in between and just fall off, just scribble. So I think that's it for a basic start as far as what I would get done in a, in a traditional painting session. Does anybody have any question? Oh, there's a prior question. Okay, about not painting what you see. Okay, let me go back. Paper, kind of, I love the trees. What can you expand? Not painting. Oh, expand on what not painting what you see. Okay. So I was always referential, and so I would always paint what I saw. And I was taught with the Cape Cod School of Artists, where it was all about color seeing. So you actually had an isolator with a hole in it. And you look through and you match the color. In fact, my teacher had me match 50 paint samples, and when the color that I matched the color on the knife, then I was getting the right thing. And oh, that makes me tired. So it just does, but it created tremendous results. So it helped me really mix color. Um, so when I'm painting a portrait, I really am, and I want to get a likeness. You betcha, I'm trying to paint what I see. That is my objective. When I'm painting a landscape, I am scribbling. I am throwing down chunks of color. And let me see if I can get this a little closer so you can just see some of the, I mean, we're talking just thick paint. And what I would do to finish this is just let it dry, or not even let it dry. It might set up for a day or two, and then go back in and adjust the composition, maybe add little things, but I'm not going to scrape anything off. Whatever, I feel like it's like the whole painting process. You paint and paint and paint. And some of them, I don't know if any of you golf. Juliana, I know you golf. No matter how much you practice, how much you've been out at the range, some days you go out there and you are just nailing it. And other days, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. And it's, for me, it's just, that's how painting is for me too. The more you paint, the better that whole thing happens, but it still happens. So I'm doing a Rosanna Dana, huh? It's a little thing. So anyway, the bottom line is, as far as I'm going back to painting what you see. When I'm doing a commission, or or if I go to the portrait group, I'm really trying to get a likeness. I'm really trying to do that. Now, I guess the best way to put it is, my dad at 80 started playing the piano, and the teacher wanted to teach him Mary Had a Little Lamb, and he says, I don't have that much time left. I want to play boogie woogie. And so I still feel like I have a lot of time left, but I feel like the time that I spend, I want to just express myself. So I just can't. And I think with COVID and being sheltering in place and not being able to get out, I think that's had an effect on me, even being like, I can't, I gotta just paint. I don't want to be controlled. And so, so I'm not saying that painting what you see, I really am not saying that painting what you see is bad. I'm just saying that at this point in my life, that's hard for me. I like just making stuff up. And so I would say, whatever floats your boat. If you want to be totally photorealistic and that makes you happy, then go for it. That's what you should do. For me, I want to see how many blobs I can put down, and they're almost abstract when you look at them close, and then when you get back, it actually is sort of kind of something. So I hope that makes sense. Am I babbling? Okay, the brand of white paint that I like is Permalba. It's just really buttery. It's if you get another equivalent, would be either Daniel Smith or any of the brands that have a soft white, is the same thing as a Permalba. It's just a very soft, it's not stiff, so it really spreads. Any other, should I scroll down to see if there's any other? Nope. Okay. Any other, no, so basically I'm not done, but I think that's all that's going to happen tonight. It's just, I think I've gotten past the point of, it's so wet that I'm not going to be able to take it to another level.
You know, if anybody, this is Bobby, if anybody feels that they want to unmute themselves to be able to ask questions, it
Yeah.
might be easier that way instead of typing and reading and
Yeah, that would be
trying to
great.
figure it out. So it's a good chance to even ask what more do you think you would do on your painting?
Okay, so I think that this area here needs to be broken up even more. And I need to add more of and that's the part that makes me twitch, right? The leaves on the tree. So this is where I sit down with a bunch of coffee and say, okay, well, what's going to be best for this composition? You know, it's a little too stiff here. It needs to come out here a little more, you know, something like that. And but I would actually sit there. I had a teacher that told me that when you're painting is not the time to analyze things, that when you step away from the canvas, then you make this mental list of what you want to do. But when you're actually doing the painting, it should be more intuitive. So what I like to do is have my coffee, make a mental list of, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then when I get into la la land, when I start painting, I'm just doing it. Does that make sense? Okay.
Shannon, is that your painterly style? Just a very
It is. It's a little tighter than that. Let's see if I have I don't have anything right here in the studio that's like that. But if you go to my website, you'll see there was a palette knife on. If you go to my website and you look and you click on the art and you look at the landscapes, you'll see they're considerably different than all the portraits and everything else I do. Because my I've done some photorealistic portraits, so it's not that I can't, it's that I've chosen to go in a different direction right now. In fact, I tried doing some, I'll have to show you. I tried doing some, I'll be right back. I started these little studies of cups and that were back to the old style that I used to do, and I can't finish them. I'm like, I have to be too careful, and I don't want to be careful right now. So I'm not going to throw them out or paint over them. They're almost done. I just need to adjust my attitude, and when I'm in a different place, I'll paint them. But right now, I do not want to be contained. Juliana knows.
Well, it's interesting that you're expressing your art in that way. You don't want to be contained.
No, I don't. What? I should go get my self-portrait because I just did this. You got a second? I'll just go grab it.
I love these extra moments that we get. We get to sneak into studios. I love that. And getting to see these extra things that maybe, she wouldn't be able to bring in person with her, or she wouldn't think to do that. So maybe I'm a little bit of a stalker or a voyeur or something. Voyeur?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, how cool is it that she's right there and she can go grab what she wants? Like, I'm like, that's really awesome.
Hey, thanks for putting this on there, Bobby, and thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome. So this is all done with a knife, and normally I wouldn't do a self-portrait that was this loose.
Wow.
I just wouldn't. So it's. Let's see if I can get closer.
That's powerful.
And and this is basically, I look scary when I go when I go out for my walks in the morning, but I'm protected. Anyway, all the other self-portraits I've done have been with the brush, and of course, I want to make myself look good, right? And and this time I didn't care, and I thought, wow, that's well, it's not that I didn't care. But it's definitely some growth in that I think even with the mask, I allowed people to see me, whereas in some of the self-portraits, I take out the jowls or what whatever. But in this, I left my extra chin and, you know, just let it, it's just what happens over time, right?
Mhm.
So anyway,
That's a deeper look inside. So that's like you dropped in. You don't want to be confined, but yet, and also you express that out on your canvas.
yeah, I really feel like for me, it's totally, I don't, I don't think I started painting when I was in my 30s, and it's the best therapy, right? It's the best. And doing a
Mhm.
self-portrait is the best way to check in with yourself, because I don't know about you guys, but boy, does my inner critic come out when I start doing a self-portrait. I mean, holy cow. So I like to do one periodically because it's a great way to check in with myself and say, okay, where am I? What's going on? And so for me, I'm not saying it's a religious experience, but it's a very spiritual experience when I painting. I see it more than just putting paint down. You know, there's
Hey,
always.
Shannon, how do you do your self-portrait? Do you do from portrait or do a mirror
I
or?
have both a mirror and a. Let me show you this little mirror I have. Um, anyway, I don't have it handy, but I have this. I have a little mirror, and I also take a picture too. And so I have my iPad on in a little stand here, so that I can just do that. I used to hold the reference photo and the I'm doing a 2-minute tip on this, tell people not to do this. I used to hold the reference photo in my hand, and you get intense when you're painting, and I'd have a death grip on it. And the same thing with the palette and all that. Anyway, over the years, I got carpal tunnel, and the doctor was saying, it's not in your right hand. Why? I said, it's because I hold, over the years, I've held everything in my left hand. So, that's why I'm trying to do things, like train myself to not hurt myself. But anyway,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So I'm hoping that even this, it's not a finished piece, but I will, and I'm going to let it dry, so it'll be probably a week or so before I get back into it, but it's not going to take that much to finish it, and I'll post a picture so you guys can see where it lands. It's not one that's going to be. I used to call, okay, so when I lived in San Jose, in Los Gatos, they had this dump landfill that was called Guadalupe. And so when paintings didn't work out, I used to say they'd go in the Guadalupe collection. This is not going in the Guadalupe, this one I'll finish. It's not going in the Guadalupe collection. It's gonna, I'll actually finish it because it's not contained. It's just putting spots of color down, and it's a very contemplative thing for me. So I just keep putting spots of color, and I'll go in every day. I have several paintings going at once. And that's the other thing. Sometimes I have start energy where I'll go weeks where I'm just starting. Other times I have more futzing middle energy, and then the end process is a whole different state of being as well. So I try to keep my productivity up by having all these in various states of being. That makes sense. Am I talking too
Shannon,
much?
this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Juliana. Thanks for thinking of me.
Of course. We miss you
I
here.
miss you guys. Any other? Oh, thank you. Hey, Maureen.
Hi,
I'm
honey.
giving you guys hugs. Carrie, I haven't seen you guys in so long.
Too long.
This is great. This is a bridge of my mountain artist friends and my coast artist friends. How cool is that? And new friends now.
Yes. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions? I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is to just paint over whatever isn't working. And even if this didn't work off, you could scrape that down, and it's all building on what you did before. It's not like, my granddaughter said, well, I said, it's not done yet. And she said, what's wrong with it? And I said, it's not that it's not wrong, that there's something wrong. It's just not done. It's kind of like a cake in the oven, right? Put a cake in the oven, it looks gooey. It, looks gooey for a long time. And then if you don't quit peeking, it'll be okay.
Do you then glaze or varnish what
You know what? If I have the painting long enough, I do, but usually don't, especially something this thick. It would be at least a year or so before I do that. I do put a temporary coat of liquid over the top, and I hope to not have them around, but that sometimes I do, to actually varnish them later. And I find the liquid actually does pretty good. And I'll give you a case in point. If you ever go to Casa de Fruta, just about all the paintings in there are mine. And they had one where I had this 3 feet by 3 feet, really cool cherry painting. And somebody had, one of the cooks, and it was in the kitchen, but you could see it from the restaurant. One of the cooks in the kitchen had put this hot oil grease thing in. So there was this big burn line on it. So I restored it, but thanks to the liquid, a lot of it I was able to wash off.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
it was, so the liquid was actually, I mean, it's by no means a typical traditional final varnish, but it's a good thing to do when you're done with your oils. So, yeah.
Off to Casa de Fruta.
Yes. They've been very good to me.
I just have a question. Since your paint is so thick, how do you put the liquid on afterwards? I mean,
Okay,
how
so
long-
that's a good question, because I used to use a sponge brush, and that's fine for when you don't have a lot of texture. When you do have a lot of texture, it tears up the sponge, and then you've got little flecks of that, which just is very irritating. Then you have to pick that out. So now I have a regular, just a regular bristle brush, and I try to put it on really thin so that you're not getting the brush strokes. That being said, you can still see some of it, but it's, and also, yeah, because then you really got to make sure it's dry, and because
Dry
the top
enough.
layer can be dry and it's not. You think it is. Thankfully, in the Fresno heat, stick it out in the garage. Although, it's not great in the winter, but in the summer things dry pretty quickly here. It's had a little adjustment to the weather here. Let's see, did I miss anything? You guys gonna take one out and paint over it? Try it with a knife? Yay.
I will.
I want to see what you do.
I'll post it.
Good.
You were really brave. Those lips were just gorgeous on
Oh,
that.
they were.
I'm
I
thinking,
really liked, but you know what? I think that at the end, the woman had really sweet energy. And I think that, and I've painted over things before, and I think that in the end, when I'm done, that's the other thing that I try to have convey in my paintings. It's, like with this one, you can feel this person coming through, right? I mean, you can feel the energy of her. So my goal is the paintings are done when the spirit of the piece comes leaping out at you. And so I think that her sweet energy is gonna come out, and I'll just really kind of try to tune into her when I finish. Yeah.
very, very good. I'm so happy seeing everybody here, and thank you, Shannon. Desiree,
You're welcome.
Desiree, you muted yourself.
She did.
Desiree brings us our artists, our guest artists each month that we have them. And just thank you so much to Desiree for all that you do and bringing the different artists to us. Thank you, Shannon, for starting out our year. And I'm just thinking about how, you don't want to be safe now, because outside of this, we have to be so safe, right? Yes. So that freeing spirit is just such a gift for us today, and to start out the year with. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's good to see everybody.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
You're welcome. Thanks, Desiree.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see everybody here. Thank you for coming.
Good to see you, Shannon. You
too, Carrie and Juliana and Maureen. Oh my God.
Oh,
Hi, Judith.
We need a road trip to Fresno now too.
Yes, eventually, and eventually I will be doing more I can see, I doubt that I'll do anything in person for at least a year. I really have to be careful with Dwight. And I mean, and me too, but you know, I just, so that's why I'm building the online thing. I'm just trying to, you know, we're all shifting the best we can. And I think that eventually it's never going to go back the way it was. It's going to be some sort of morph between the in-person things and the, and all that. But anyway, I just really had fun with you guys today.
Yeah. Well, I will benefit from the new system, that's for sure.
Yay.
We all do, or else we all had to go to Yosemite, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, you know, Yosemite Western Artists is also a good group. So if you're ever up this way, we've got live model sessions. We've got all kinds of good stuff. And I'm telling them all about you guys.
Thank you.
I'm part of membership. I'm the VP of membership for them.
Well,
So, oh,
thank you.
and I'll be doing a traditional still life, traditional painting brush, realistic, of some bell peppers, March and April for them on Zoom. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll send you the link. So,
Peppers, yeah, that's how it all started.
it was those bell peppers, huh? It was. I'm going back to my roots.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, love you.
I love you too.
Thank you all.
You guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Shannon.
See you all
Bye.
again.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you,
Good night,
Shannon.
everyone.
Really appreciate you having me.